Growing up, children are unable to buy their own stuff, often having to rely on their parents/guardians to buy stuff for them. This results in children developing childhood franchises. Some may develop COD or FIFA as their childhood franchises. Others may have Fortnite and Minecraft. Me. Well, I had Mario, Pokemon, and Sonic. Those three are my childhood franchises. All three of those franchises had something in common. Mediocre 2010s. Mario had an era where the games just started feeling samey. Felt like it was mandated. Pokemon's quality just dropped after Black and White 2, eventually leading to the Switch era where almost every game was just bad. And Sonic, he was in the worst place he's ever been, with two of the worst games in the series dropped in that single decade. Then came the 2020s. My interest in Mario came rocketing back with the release of Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, and then later, Super Mario Bros. Wonder. My interest in Pokemon came back with Pokemon Legends Arceus, the first game in the series to actually be up there with some of my favorite gens in the series. And while buggy, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are games that had very obvious passion in them. That's why when I saw the direction Sonic Frontiers was taking, I was excited. Mario and Pokemon were able to make a comeback. I knew Sonic could, except he didn't. It was the exact opposite. Sonic Frontiers became the worst game I've ever played. So, here's why. Sonic Frontiers, despite aiming for new frontiers, fails to reach any new frontiers at all. Sonic the Hedgehog was the protagonist of the hit 1991 Sega platformer Sonic the Hedgehog. The game was revolutionary for its lack of a run button and focus on momentum-based platforming. The game was widely successful as well. It single-handedly made Sonic the mascot for Sega, and one of the only platformers to actually compete with Super Mario himself. Sonic then had a notorious rough transition into 3D, a fact that has become a meme within the Sonic fanbase, and soon after had the dark age of Sonic during the 2000s, which resulted in the game known as Sonic 06. Sonic then made a resurgence in 2010 with the release of Sonic Colors and later Sonic Generations, only to then lose it all again with a double combo of Sonic Lost World and Sonic Boom in 2014. Sonic then got even more embarrassing when Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces both came out in 2017, as the game made by fan developers completely outshined the main AAA Sonic Team game. Then, a long 5-year gap between the next Sonic Team game happened, and in that time, Sonic had a successful movie universe, but also had two very controversial ports. Then at the Game Awards 2021, Sonic Frontiers got its first teaser. It was a cinematic trailer. Gameplay wasn't shown until May, where we got a look at the game's open zone and combat. Needless to say, people were mixed at the time, something that would follow the discussion until a few months before release. Upon its release, Sonic Frontiers was met with praise from fans and reviewers alike. The game currently sits at 70 on a Metacritic today. Sonic Frontiers is often considered one of the best Sonic games. And that's exactly why this game confuses me, because either I got the most bugged copy of the game, or I played a completely different game instead. I'm not exaggerating when I say I don't understand why people like this game. It's that bad. But enough about history. Why is this game so bad? Well, let's play and find out. The game doesn't start with the game. Instead, it starts off with a short about Knuckles uploaded separately on YouTube with almost no acknowledgement in game. You see, most Sonic games recently have all had a short to go along with the game about to release, and Sonic Frontiers is no different. Although instead of being a separate story disconnected from Frontiers, the prologue animation is focused on explaining why Knuckles is at the Starfall Islands in the first place. Now granted, the information from the prologue isn't necessary to understand the game in any way, and at most, this first critique is a nitpick. But I brought it up since it is related to Sonic Frontiers, and I felt it should be covered. Let's actually cover the actual game now. The game starts off with Eggman finding a portal to cyberspace and then subsequently getting sucked in. It then cuts to Sonic, Tails, and Amy flying to the Starfall Islands, location this game takes place, and we already see our first big problem. The opening. Sonic openings are some of the best parts of these games. Even some of the worst games in the series have great openings to the games, such as 06, Shadow or Freeriders. This game's opening shows a problem that the rest of the cutscenes have, as it's just the characters standing around talking with movement similar to that of a Chuck E. Cheese animatronic. It would unironically be better if they pulled text boxes similar to that of the DS games, or even pulled out cutscenes similar to the storybook games. As those had far more personality and worked very well for those low-budget games. They don't, and so the cutscenes come off as stilted, lifeless, soulless, where the characters just talk about the most boring things. Made even worse by Ian Flynn writing in references for the sake of being references. No reference in this game feels earned or well placed, and so it comes off as cheap nostalgia bait that can only be described as, look guys, we referenced the thing! We understand our source materials, we looked for the most niche things to reference! Okay, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Where are we? Oh, Green Hill Zone. Oh, Green Hill Zone. The one place that can't seem to stop coming back. I know this game has Sonic moving like an animatronic, but we don't need to go that far. Anyway, I would like to defend Green Hill Zone for a moment, as I do think it is overhated. Green Hill Zone is the first location ever in a Sonic game and has appeared in multiple games throughout the series, such as Sonic 1, Sonic 1 Game Gear, Sonic 2 Game Gear, Sonic Chaos, Sonic Blast, Sonic Advance 1, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Generations 3DS, Sonic Mania, Sonic Forces, and lastly, Sonic Frontiers. And yes, I know that Chaos and Advance have a different name, it's still called Green Hill Zone. Anyway, well, yes, Sega has brought Green Hill Zone back in damn near every single game since Generations. Forces at least did something new different with it instead of being the same old Green Hills. Now, of course, that was Forces, so it didn't do it well, but I do think the hate for Green Hills is a little unjustified. So, hopefully Frontiers uses Green Hill better. Oh my fucking god. Alright, let's rip this band-aid off now. Fuck Cyberspace! Cyberspace alone can last me hours on end, so let's just cover it all at once. First up, there are 30 Cyberspace levels, but only 6 of the 30 levels are actually original! That is because Sonic Team reuses level design from the following 3 games: Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Unleashed, and Sonic Generations! Oh, but if that wasn't worrying, Sonic Generations is levels stolen from both classic and modern Sonic! So that's 3 separate styles of Sonic gameplay mapped onto one Sonic that wasn't made with the levels in question in mind! You don't even need to be a game designer to know how bad that truly is. Oh, and if that wasn't bad enough, Cyberspace levels weren't even play tested. Whole levels have 3 extra goals, that being collect X number of rings, collect all 5 red rings, and beat the stage in X amount of time. That third one's important, because the clear times on levels are not tested. You can have one level be almost impossible to beat without speedrunner exploits, or you can have a level where you can play super casual, take 20 plus hits, and still beat the required time! Some people will defend this by saying skill issue, but why should I be expected to learn speedrunner strats for the second Cyberspace level in the game? If it was the last island in the game, maybe I would understand, but it isn't. It's the second level in the game, and a required one at that. To get a bit ahead of myself, part of the intended gameplay loop involves getting a progression item from Cyberspace. I'll talk about later, stuff like this makes me want to engage less with Cyberspace, because there's no good reward for doing so. It's part of the core problem with Sonic Frontiers, in that it's a waste of fucking time. Okay, well, let's take a small break from Cyberspace and cover it as it comes along, because I can't seem to get this fucking band-aid off. Upon clearing Cyberspace 1-1, Sonic finds himself in a conversation with GLaDOS, but sadly, GLaDOS does not bring her charm with her because the voice director in this game is that one robot from the fucking Archie comics. I'll just cover this as well. The voice direction sucks ass in this game. There's an infamous clip online of Roger covering his direction for Sonic in this game, and it illustrates the problem exactly. Give it a listen.
And I'm thinking, for Sonic, so I'm like, okay, you know, it's over, Egghead. And he's like, a little deeper. And I'm like, it's over, Egghead. Little deeper. It's over, Egghead. It's like, little deeper. It's over, Egghead. And he's like, right there. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
Now, here's the thing. Roger and the rest of the cast did the best job with what they could, and I do not blame them for anything wrong with this game's voice acting. However, this game's problem is that the cast is being way too fucking serious with their voices, and it really comes off as trying too hard. The problem with this voice cast in general is that they just do not fit the characters they are playing. Characters have the same exact designs from Adventure, which had way different voices made for them, as characters like Tails or Amy were meant to be way younger than their current voice actors actually sound.
Select a memory card.
Maybe they knew something about their power that we don't.
Select the memory card.
Oh, right!
Which again, isn't a problem with the voice acting, but rather the voice direction / casting and design of the characters. Roger and the rest of the 2010 cast can play a good Sonic and his friends. Sonic Boom was this cast at their best, and that's because that version of Sonic was made with the 2010 cast in mind. This game, once again, puts a square in a triangle hole and just expects it to fit even though it really doesn't. I actually like the idea of the Sonic cast moving on and going to find new frontiers, but this game really doesn't feel like that. Nothing in this game really gives the impression that the cast is getting older other than the voice acting. And the voice direction combined with the animation really do give the impression of these characters being creepy animatronics. Let's move on though. We have a new world to explore. An open zone. Sonic Frontier starts off by giving us a simple tutorial on how to jump and shows us how to move around by collecting rings. Basic tutorial 101, but that's honestly the bare minimum with this game. Scattered all throughout the open zones are missions. The first one is incredibly simple, but immediately introduces a big fucking problem with this game. The map. The fucking map! You see, every mission you do unlocks one segment of the map, but instead of clearing out a whole area, it clears it out by clearing specific squares of the map. All squares leave the map when you do every mission of the island you are on. The square will cover up all UI elements below it. Even stuff you have already discovered or have even done on the map will be covered up by the map squares. There is one case later on where you will clear a mission and the cleared mission marker for the mission you just did will be under a square and will not go away until you clear every mission on that island. This is by far the worst map system I have ever used in a video game, and 10 out of 10 times made the game more frustrating. I haven't even covered everything about the map yet, because there is more. Oh, there's a fuck ton more. The game then forces us to take a homing attack tutorial and then immediately after throws us into combat which just involves homing attacking a few enemies, which makes you wonder what the point of the homing attack tutorial before was even for. We then get an introduction to the enemies of this game. After already defeating 4, we get a few more spots to do some extra platforming challenges for more pink hearts, and so far, exploration seems to be rewarding. However, don't explore too much as you may encounter some weird invisible walls that exist for no reason by interacting with your environment in the open zone. We then encounter our first mini-boss, Ninja. The one mini-boss the fanbase overhyped the hell out of, game then teaches us how to lock on, which we do, and then we play a boring boss fight where you spam the homing attack and then either occasionally dodge or get hit and grab a single ring. This is arguably the combat at its most complex because it does get more simple later on. After exploring more side paths and being rewarded, we then come up to a puzzle where we learn that Sonic is Silver's father as he now has telekinesis. With no acknowledgement to this massive lore development, we enter through a doorway and continue with more side paths. This game must love its exploration, and we immediately get introduced to the skill tree and side loops, in which the game will automatically give us a side loop via the skill tree. The side loop basically lets Sonic leave a trail behind wherever he walks, and if you walk in a circle with it, you can get rewards like rings, skill points, and worst of all, those pink hearts you get by exploring. You can get infinite amounts of them. So, fun fact, after getting introduced to this skill in the skill tree, you also get the save option, but then you immediately get it taken away from you for no reason, even though you just had a tutorial for it. So, like, what's the fucking point? But then, after you solve the puzzle, you just given the menu back, but you still can't save. It's like, what? But then, we finally reach Cyberspace 1-2, where we learn that Cyberspace levels can be accessed by the gears you get from mini-bosses scattered about the land. So, you beat for exploration? As I mentioned earlier, this level requires speedrun strats if you want to get the S rank. This is bad game design as there are these keys that are locked behind the S ranks that you will eventually need for progression. Items like those should never be locked behind speedrun strats. If Sonic Team wanted to reward players for putting in the time and actually getting really good at the game, they should have implemented an X rank that surpasses the S rank. This X rank should be treated like the Platinum Relics in Crash Bandicoot, where they only serve as bragging rights. Otherwise, they cause the game to feel unfair to players playing for the game, which is never a feeling a gamer should have to feel. It's okay to challenge your players, but the challenge has to be fair and earned. Sonic 2's final boss is a prime example of a hard yet fair boss, where you're given no rings and must no damage the final boss. All attacks can be dodged, it just comes down to your skill. Cyberspace 1-2 on the other hand requires you to learn an entirely different game just to get one key. On top of this, it is the second level in the game, meaning most are barely even accustomed with the main game. To expect expert level play early on will make most players frustrated, especially when later levels will be way easier, making this level stand out. Cyberspace 1-2 would be way less insulting to the player if it was in the last island instead of the first, and also if it wasn't one of the few required cyberspace levels in the game. As a across a new bridge formed by us clearing Cyberspace 1-2, we see a music note. This gives us Planet Wisp in our jukebox, which, if we ever get bored by the music, we can play. But why would we ever get bored by this? Oh. So, we then climb up, get our blue Chaos Emerald, and see this big, sprawling world in front of us. We see 3 things: a new mission, a big enemy, and our current goal. The mission is incredibly easy and baby-like, but the same cannot be said for our next mini-boss. Oh wait, never mind, regular enemy, okay. These floating balls in the sky are meant to be defeated by one attack, but since you most likely encounter one without that attack at first, welcome to one of the most annoying fights in the game, where you have to homing attack and then pray you're able to dodge its electric shield. We then fight the next mini-boss, Ashura, which is incredibly bullshit in its own right. To fight Ashura, you must climb it and reach the top of its head. Defeat the pillar on its head, and you will be launched off in an animation way too similar to the Get Hit animation, as seen in my footage. The bosses even have shadows, which means if you have the camera looking down at Sonic, you cannot see that you are about to be hit. Reminder that in Sonic games, getting crushed is an insta-kill, and yet the second boss in the game can do that to you in a non-telegraphed way if you have your camera facing down. I know most players will be looking up, but in this clip I provided, I was trying to take advantage of the side loop mechanic, and that's why I had my camera down. If I could see the shadow of the attack that was incoming, this wouldn't have been an unfair hit. However, that's not the only bullshit part of this fight. Because Sonic has combat in this game, his homing attack is also his punch button, which means if you're not targeting any enemies, instead of dashing forward like in other games, Sonic will stand still and just punch in midair, and Sonic cannot move in midair after this. You lose all your speed and momentum, which makes the platforming segments way worse than they already are. So how does this apply to Ashura? Well, to climb Ashura's head, you must go for these blue rings that launch you into the sky, and then you must homing attack Ashura's head. However, if you do it too early, Sonic will punch and you will fall with no way to save yourself. This is incredibly frustrating because the lack of air movement means you just have to sit and wait there for Sonic to awkwardly fall down. So something I haven't mentioned yet are the updates for Sonic Frontiers and also the options menu. The updates came in 3 waves, all with different features. One of the updates added new options to the options menu. This specifically included jump deceleration. If you set it to 0, the game apparently becomes better. However, I'm not touching them. This section of the options menu basically lets you change the physics of the game, which proves that Sonic Team is just not competent at their jobs. Platformers need to be made with their physics in mind, so that way the level design can be made with the physics. By turning them into sliders, the developers cannot make level design with any one of the physics settings in mind, which means that the platforming challenges will either be incredibly basic or impossibly hard. It's for this reason that I did not change any of the physics setting during my playthrough. I stuck with the default during my playthrough. I am the gamer, not the developer. It's not my job to fix the game. Anyway, back to Ashura again. Oh, this boss is fucking glitchy as well. Anyway, as I mentioned before, when Ashura knocks you down, it feels as if you've taken damage. However, that also means you have to wait for Sonic to recover. In this clip, I barely had enough time to get up and dodge, before I eventually died to an insta-kill. Throughout this fight, it can be incredibly hard to tell what does and doesn't hurt you because of the lack of delay in Sonic losing his rings. And also, well, the lack of smooth animation also makes it worse. In this clip, you can see I got hit, dropped a ring, and then got hit again almost immediately, and died instantly. That was when I found out that Sonic has no invincibility frames in this game. This is probably why most enemies launch you, or why enemies must go for a full combo before you actually take damage. It's also why rings do not work for a combat-focused game. Okay, let's get into this. Rings work exactly the same as in every other game in the series. You can collect them, but if you get hit, you lose all of them. So one ring is all you need to survive. However, this game and many others do incentivize collecting many rings. In a lot of the 2D games, rings let you access special or bonus stages. So in the boost games, collecting rings is how you keep your boost gauge up. In the Frontiers case, maxing out your ring gauge will increase your attack and base speed. While it may sound nice, it makes it to where you either need one ring or all of your rings. Rings acting as your HP is why making Sonic combat focus is not a good thing, because Sonic just needs one ring to live and is basically unkillable, making combat even more simple than it already was. That combined with the fact that enemies always launch you means that you will always end up with one ring. And again, if you get max rings, your speed increases automatically, which means platforming challenges also have to be made with that in mind. Alright, but back to Ashura again. After all that, all you have to do to beat Ashura is spam the homing attack. I shit you not, I beat Ashura by spamming the homing attack. We then go to Cyberspace 1-3 and see one of the few original levels in this game, on what is also the only unique theme in this game. Because despite reusing level designs, there are only 4 themes used in Cyberspace, those being Green Hill, Chemical Plant, Sky Sanctuary, and the only new theme, Eternal Highway. It is embarrassing how Sonic Team will reuse level design from older games and then only make 4 themes for those levels! But then we move on to the main story and meet Amy Rose. Oh, poor Amy Rose. They butchered her this game. Amy Rose is not Amy Rose in this game. She is basically a completely different character from any of her previous appearances, which is very strange for this game, as every other characters do feel like themselves except for one other. She may as well be called Samantha. Amy hasn't had a game with a big role since Unleashed, as she's been a side character in the 2010 games where she was just kinda there. To give an idea of Amy's character up to this point, Amy started out as a Sonic fangirl, stalking Sonic and even following him to Little Planet in CD, where she ended up getting kidnapped by Metal Sonic, who I'm honestly surprised didn't appear in this game. Then she disappeared until Adventure 1, where she once again shows her crush on Sonic in full display. This game, she's being chased by a robot named Zero. No, not that Zero. This one. And has to keep a little bluebird safe. She ends this game still on Sonic's tail. Then in Sonic Adventure 2, Amy breaks into a high security prison just to save Sonic. Mind you, she did this without Tails, without Knuckles. She did this by herself. The only thing that potentially stopped her was Eggman, but Tails happened to step in at that time. Even then, Tails probably wasn't even fucking needed. Then in Sonic Heroes, she forms her own team with Cream and Big. And after Heroes, she then saves Sonic from being killed by Silver in 06. During that moment, Sonic acknowledges that Amy can take Silver on. Then in Unleashed, Sonic becomes a werehog, and then is actually embarrassed to let Amy see him as a werehog. Later in that same game, Sonic promises to go on a date with Amy. And in Black Knight, Sonic is supposed to go on that date with Amy, but misses it due to Black Knight's plot pulling him in. And finally, nothing. This date is never acknowledged, and Amy's character at this point changes into someone else. I have a mini theory that Colors is meant to be a Sonic Amy adventure, but changed very early into a Sonic and Tails adventure. That's irrelevant, however. Samantha in this game is... well, she's incredibly basic. She's gone from a character with a pretty great arc to just being kind to character. She wants to help these two Cocos get together, and that's really it. I honestly have nothing to say about her character other than she is not Amy. Anyway, those pink hearts are memory tokens used to unlock conversations with Samantha on the map. Some conversations are needed for story progression and some are completely pointless. On top of this, we need keys to get the Chaos Emeralds around the map, so we need to defeat the mini-bosses to access Cyberspace and get the keys to get the Chaos Emeralds. Oh, what's this blue thing on the map? Oh, that's a lot of keys. So, you see this vast open world? You see all the places you can explore. Well, newsflash! You don't need to engage with any of the open world. You can quite literally just find side loop spots around the world. Get the keys from those, or even the gears from those, and use those to get every Chaos Emerald needed for a given segment. You can also just spin around in circles and get every memory token needed to progress to the next big story segment. Now, usually this would be on the player as they are the ones pressing the buttons, but I've already gone over why combat is bad. I haven't even finished talking about Cyberspace yet, and now I'm going to tell you why going for every memory token is a waste of your goddamn time. Memory tokens are basically moons in Mario Odyssey. You get them for doing simple platforming challenges or by making circles on the ground. There is no limit to the amount you can get by doing circles. As I mentioned before, the platforming in this game suffers from having no physics made with it in mind, leading to almost every platforming challenge being incredibly easy. However, with the release of Update 2, Sonic Frontiers actually became a worse video game because you see, Update 2 introduced two new big mechanics, Special Cocos and Time Trials. If you clear every time trial in the game, which you can't do until the final island, you unlock the Spin Dash. Why is that important? Well, the Spin Dash is basically a boost more than the actual boost. Alright, we have to cover that as well. Because of that, the special Coco platforming challenges require the Spin Dash, which, may I remind you, you cannot get until the final island. And since the game doesn't distinguish a special Coco from a regular memory token, you may be slamming your head against the wall for this game's unfair design. Okay, so I fucked up. It turns out you don't need the Spin Dash. You just need speedrunner levels of skill and possibly luck, / the correct settings, which is a different discussion. I want to give thanks to various angels on Twitter for being one of the only Sonic Frontiers fans to actually back up their claims with evidence. You have no idea how happy it made me to actually be wrong about something when it came to this game. I've been so worried about saying something wrong due to a lack of knowledge on a specific subject. I want to take this moment and explain why I thought the Spin Dash was required. Guides on YouTube have Sonic stats at max, and the way the platforms are lined up to me, it looks like either A, Sonic needs a boost, or B, Sonic needs a Spin Dash. So knowing how the game is, seeing how Final Horizon's own platforming challenges required a Spin Dash, I just figured Sonic Team was being lazy as they are with the rest of the game. I even had a friend at the time who was dick riding the fuck out of this game, trying to do the platforming challenges at default settings, low stats. And she did similar tricks to the video I was provided, but couldn't make it herself. When she said it was impossible, I figured that was it. Granted, the clip I was provided very clearly was unintentional or barely made the platforms, plus it may not have been in default settings, so Sonic Team may have designed it with the spin dash in mind. Either way, I was wrong and felt it necessary to correct myself. Right, may as well explain Coco's as well. Coco's are unneeded. They're only here for Sonic to collect and then give to an Elder Coco so he can upgrade Sonic's speed and max ring count. However, because the game has the max ring bonus, you should never upgrade your ring count until the finale of the game. And as stated, having to upgrade your speed in a platformer means the game can't be designed around its physics and speed. There is also a Hermit Coco around the world which you can talk to so you can increase your attack and defense. However, defense only affects how many rings you lose, which doesn't mean much since you only need one ring to live. Attack doesn't do anything more than just keep battles the same speed as always. Sonic Frontiers can often feel like it doesn't even know what it wants to be. The game is basically Sonic Team throwing multiple ideas into a blender and not giving any care to actually making a good game. Frontiers apparently took so long to make because they had to fix the engine multiple times, just to have an open zone. And then they apparently had to rush out the final game. However, they weren't going to have time for an open zone, just make another boost game at that point. Save the open zone for the next game, or even have it just be a hub world. Pull a Pokemon and transition in small steps. Sonic Frontiers is always going to sell well anyway because it's the first Sonic game to be released after the Sonic movie, which grossed $400 million at the box office. I know some of that went to Paramount / the second movie, but I highly doubt none of it went back to Sonic Team. A big issue at Forces was its lack of staff, and with the increased budget and also it being Sonic, I highly doubt Sega gave Frontiers a small budget, given how other Sega teams are able to make games in less time. I do not see how Sega is at fault for Frontiers at all, especially when comparing Sonic Team to RGG Studios. Any and all blame on Sega for this mess of a game just doesn't make sense. Speaking of boosts, the boosts in this game also suck. Because of the open zone, Sonic's boost had to be drastically reduced due to the game being a completely different genre. Now, it just comes off as an unsatisfying dash button. Sonic in this game is meant to be a fusion of his adventure gameplay and his boost gameplay, but it really feels like no care was actually given to actually see if this is fun, and the world design just doesn't complement Sonic as well. Not only are the platforming challenges just unfun and samey, but the world is just a bunch of fields and rails with the occasional ruins, boss, cyberspace entrances, springs, and side loop spots to fit in. However, there are some things that do stand out in these worlds, one of which being an upside down pyramid. This fucking pyramid is the thing that made this game the worst game of all time to me. Remember how the first part of Kronos Island taught the player to look around for those memory tokens? Well, once the player gets the ability to fully explore Kronos Island, they might choose to explore, caught up in the world, then look for landmarks. Kronos Island only has 4. A field of pillars, an Eggman base, a waterfall, and the upside down pyramid. When you get below the pyramid, you can see an arena with the boss tower. After defeating tower, a spring appears, allowing for the player to climb the pyramid, and at the top is a Chaos Emerald that if you didn't have the keys for at the time, you would have to jump down the pyramid, and once you're down, you can't just skip travel back. You can't even get a shortcut back. You basically just wasted your time climbing a pyramid, and you had no idea because the game gave no warnings. As a matter of fact, the game encouraged you to explore its tutorial of the open zone. Oh, but it gets worse. Way worse. You see, it's not just this pyramid. Both Ares and Chaos Island do this too! There are Chaos Emeralds hidden behind platforming challenges that actually stand out. And if you explore, you will waste your time! That's another reason why just side looping all your memory tokens is a good idea. Because there's no reason to explore! Oh, but that's not even half of it. In Rhea Island, there are 5 towers you have to climb to progress. If you fall, you get shortcuts to climb back up. So why don't those exist for the upside down pyramid? Why is there no switch to actually make it so you don't waste your time? Oh. And there's another instance where the game will prevent you from going through a platforming challenge to grab an emerald early! On the final fucking island! There is a part where you need to get the keys before you can even access the platforming challenge needed to get the fucking emerald! Where the fuck was that design philosophy anywhere else in the game? Oh, and fuck fucking Sonic fans will unironically defend this by saying, well, just don't explore. Then don't make a game about exploration! I'm grabbing some fucking water. Fuck this shit. This game fucking sucks. I fucking can't do this without water. Alright, I'm back, and that's a meteor shower and just lights everywhere. Pinball. So yeah, welcome to this game's equivalent of the Blood Moon from Breath of the Wild. A meteor shower where purple coins are scattered everywhere. A random ass slot machine that just sticks out. It's playing itself and beams of light are everywhere. It's a mess and feels very slapped on, but thankfully you can turn it off, which I did. Oh, you mean you couldn't turn that off in base game? What the fuck? Oh, but purple coins basically act as a currency for Big the fucking Cat, because he somehow got here and he just started a fishing hut, which gets you more keys, more gears, more memory tokens, because fuck playing the game, am I right? Yeah, anyway, Big has Eggman lore, which I'm not touching. Eggman's pretty much irrelevant in this game anyway. Fishing minigame in this game also is incredibly fucking basic. You just press A once. Kirby in the Forgotten Land was more complicated than this. Also, Sonic has a cut-in like he's a Persona protagonist. You are not him! But yeah, in case you hate the game even more, you can just skip everything by fishing! Because fuck actually designing a well-made video game that encourages the player to actually play the fucking game! Anyway, we need to get the 7 Chaos Emeralds to defeat this giant boss that gave us the only cutscene in the game with actual movement. Well, damn, good on you. Get the Chaos Emeralds, you need to find them in either a vault or do main story. Main story quests hardly ever have you engage with the actual game's main mechanics. Instead, you most likely are playing a minigame. On Kronos Island, you have to play the following minigames. Twilight Princess's goat minigame, then you have to get rid of weeds. Hi Chaos, is Sonic going, okay, Sonic isn't acknowledging you, alright, okay. Good writing, Flynn. And, okay, alright. Then we play a puzzle where we have to connect mirrors. Cool. And now we have to access to fight the boss with only 6 emeralds. For some reason, Sonic thinks he can fight him without the 7th now. Before we head to the boss, let me just give my thoughts on Kronos Island. Like, right now. Kronos Island, despite talking about it for 12 pages, is what I would consider a mid-map for this game. It's ranked at number 4 out of the 6. Yeah, you heard me. 6 islands in this game! Now, to be fair, a lot of the maps won't have nearly as much as talked about compared to Kronos. Anyway, climb the top of the waterfall to reach Giganto, our first sight and boss, and... oh, the final Chaos Emerald is with him, and Yoink, and, Oh my god. Oh my fucking god! This theme is fucking awesome! This, my friends, is the best song in the game! Undefeatable! This isn't just a good Sonic song to me, this is in the top 10 Sonic songs for me and many others! Welcome to the one thing I'll be positive about with this game! These fucking Titan themes! Well, specifically the ones that aren't, I'm here. They got Kellen fucking Quinn to come and sing these themes, and he absolutely killed it with these 3 songs. I fucking love Undefeatable, Break Through It All, and Find Your Flame. These 3 songs are so good that this game goes from a 0 out of 10 to a 0.000000001 out of 10 to me. Undefeatable to me is the Super Sonic theme, and I want it to fucking return. Undefeatable is so good, it's actually the reason I bought this game. I was very mixed on whether or not I should buy this game at launch. Footage of the game didn't look good, but people said otherwise. This song is what pushed me. Well, that would make anyone else hate it. I just can't hate this song. I really fucking can't. Sonic Frontiers, you are a piece of shit that may or may not have killed my grandma, but you at least have one redeemable quality with Undefeatable. After this Frontiers video, I actually plan on making a video about video game music, and while I won't be talking about Frontiers after this video, I am making an exception for that video as I want to bring up Undefeatable and also the rest of this soundtrack. Because as much as I praise Undefeatable, this is not a Sonic 06 situation where the OST is so good. No. Overall, this is a pretty shit soundtrack. Especially when you remove the Titan themes. I actually have a playlist to keep track of all the themes I actually like in this game, and it's only 12 songs, and this OST has 146 songs in it. I get the music is subjective, but that's not really the best sign. Tomoyo Otani is the lead composer behind the OST, and I've never seen a bigger fall-off of a career that isn't related to controversy. This dude started the series of Sonic 06, and when comparing this masterpiece of that OST to this OST, you would not know it was the same guy. Since Colors, Otani has started leaning into electronic music, and it started being very noticeable with Forces. However, Forces songs still had some melody to them. Most Frontier songs do not. The OST is either Breath of the Wild, A Bad Raid Party, or Kellen Quinn. Also, a Breath of the Wild type OST for Sonic does not work for Sonic. Sonic. Sonic is the type of game where you should have an awesome beat to run to, not a quiet piano every now and then. For the rest of this video, I'll be telling you what songs I do and do not like. We are currently at 2 of 12, those 2 songs being 1-2 flowing, and a fucking course, undefeatable. Anyway, Super Sonic is basically regular Sonic in combat, except his moves have been superified. Basically, run towards Giganto and just attack him and move on. Oh, and also, you can't lose rings. Rings simply act as your timer, leading to this fight being kind of mindless. And then, we finally leave Kronos Island and finally head off to Ares Island. I'll let the rest of this song play.